Kingdoms come and kingdoms go, rivers run and rivers flow. By Dancing Lassie. Chapter 7. It's astonishing how quickly things return to normal between the two of them. If Jaskier is slightly quieter than usual for the first few weeks after their reunion, then that is to be expected after all that has happened to him. Geralt can't help but bask in the newly regained warmth of Jaskier's companionship. Until it had been ripped from him, he'd been unaware of just how much light and cheeriness the bard brought to his life. Jaskier quickly returns to his old self, half a dozen well-received performances on the road, doing wonders to lift his spirits. Geralt perhaps indulges him a bit more. He's less likely to cut Jaskier off in the middle of a spiel, and most of the time, he stops pretending he's not paying attention. He's just missed this. At the back of his mind, his last wish niggles at his conscience. He knows he should tell Jaskier, but it already feels like the moment to do so has passed. That moment in the inn, when he'd meant to apologize properly and fully discuss what had happened between the two of them, he'd chickened out. So many things he'd wanted to say, but he had been unable to find a way to express any of them. He'd chosen the easy route of returning to the way things were before he'd ever found out that Jaskier wasn't human. It's not like the knowledge that the bard is an Orisa changes anything. Jaskier is the same as ever he was. He's nothing like the powerful, greedy creature described in the book Geralt had read. But it's a piss-poor excuse to hide his cowardice behind. Geralt knows that he will eventually run into Yennefer again, but he hopes desperately it will be at some point when he and Jaskier are apart. He and the bard do not discuss her. Her name is never brought up, and Jaskier seems determined to act as though the entire gin incident never happened. Guiltily, Geralt goes along with this, deluding himself into believing he does so for his friend's sake. The Witcher is still surprised when it takes over a year to bump into her, but of course it has to be after he and Jaskier have split for the winter, and Jaskier had returned from his annual family gathering, a gathering of gods. It boggles Geralt's mind. He'd foolishly started to hope that destiny was content with just one of them being with him. That as long as he travels with Jaskier, Yennefer will not needlessly be thrown into his path. He's such a fool sometimes. She comes across them after a successful Endriga contract. Jaskier is sitting with Geralt at the bar as he enthuses to the innkeeper and his wife about Geralt's prowess with a sword and the daring risks he took to rid the village of this problem. Patrons are hanging on his every word, as they always do. The bard has always known how to tell a good story. Geralt is only half listening, content to let Jaskier charm the populace into tolerating them for the evening, when violet eyes catch his own from the doorway. Yennefer casts him a small smile, but stiffens when she sees his companion. Geralt has never been good at reading her face. She displays too many different versions to the world for him to ever really be able to understand her, but he thinks he detects fear and also a hint of anger. Her shoulders drop, her head rises, and she starts to glide over, appearing for all the world like a regal, unaffected, powerful sorceress. A burly man stops her in her path. His friends quickly come to join him. Geralt notices the entire tavern has gone silent. Next to him, he feels Jaskier seize up in his seat with fear rolling off him in waves that clog up Geralt's nose and block all other sense. "Get out of here!" the innkeeper tells Yennefer, striding round from behind the bar to confront the sorceress. It should be comical the small round man only comes up to Yennefer's chin, and his permanently cheerful voice does not suit the aggression it currently holds. But all around him the other patrons are beginning to move, those with weapons on their person drawing them, as they all converge on Yennefer. She looks to Geralt, but he doesn't know what to do, and before he can think of something, she turns on her heel and vanishes out the door. It's as if the fog of tension that had crept into the room is immediately lifted, and everyone simply returns to what they were doing previously, showing no sign that they are even aware of what has just occurred. The scent of Jaskier's fear recedes, and Geralt turns to see the river god slumped tiredly on the counter as the innkeeper's wife fusses over him. "Poor lamb looks exhausted," she reprimands Geralt, as though this is entirely his fault. "Needs an early night. You get him up to bed. I'll send you both up a hot drink. Milk and honey with just a wee drop of spirits. I always send my little ones straight to sleep after a hard day." Geralt hums a non-committal response before firmly grabbing Jaskier by the arm and pulling him up the stairs to their room. He turns on the bard the moment he shuts the door. "What the fuck was that?" he demands. "Geralt!" Jaskier whines, and he looks scared again. "That was the witch! Geralt!" he gets at inarticulately. Geralt knows he should be softer. He should be kinder. He should be more understanding. But there's an alarm bell that's been clanging in his brain ever since Yennefer was forced to leave. The thing is, although he has known intellectually that his friend is a powerful river spirit, he hasn't really known until this night. How could he? Nothing has really changed in their interactions. It's one thing to watch Jaskier charm an audience, or a pretty woman, or a handsome man. That seems natural. Jaskier is, after all, an extroverted, friendly, interesting, witty, good-looking man. But it's another thing entirely to see Jaskier overtake the minds of an entire tavern and have them take up arms against a perceived threat, especially when they wouldn't have stood a chance against Yennefer had she decided to retaliate. "The people, Jaskier. What did you do to them?" he commands firmly. The bard turns his head to the side, long fingers toying with the bottom of his open doublet. He bites his lower lip and stares fixedly at the wall, a red flush rising on his cheeks. "I didn't mean to," he whispers. "I just panicked. I didn't mean to." A knock on the door interrupts them, and Geralt turns to open it and accepts the 2 hot drinks and the extra blanket from the innkeeper's wife. She seems ready to barge past Geralt and attempt to tuck them both in, but he sends her away with a firm "thanks" as he shuts the door in her face. Jaskier has made his way to the bed, sitting on the end of it, staring forlornly at his hands. He looks miserable. Geralt strongly objects to the way his heart aches at the sight. He sinks down next to the bard, handing him one of the mugs. "She's not going to hurt you again," he promises. "She's sorry that she ever attempted to bind you." "Sorry?" Jaskier gives a little broken, slightly hysterical laugh. "She's sorry about whatever it is my family has done to retaliate. She'd not be sorry if it had worked. If she had sucked me dry and left me a dead husk." "Perhaps," Geralt concedes. "But this punishment you Orisa gave her cut deep." "How do you know?" The Witcher hesitates but forces himself to speak. No good will come of denying his acquaintance to Yennefer. No doubt Geralt will run into her again soon, and Jaskier may very well be with him. "We ran into each other a few times when you were away." "What do you mean you ran into each other? How many times?" Jaskier has no business sounding so betrayed. It's not as if Geralt has deliberately sought her out. "I don't know." "You don't know? How can you not know? Was it that many times?" Jaskier's voice is getting louder as he pushes off the bed to face Geralt, anger written into every line of his body. "Are you two friends or something?" Geralt is honestly not sure what he and Yennefer are, but he must take too long to reply because Jaskier lets out a wounded noise and staggers to the other side of the room, sloshing his warm drink all over his hands and the floor. "Stand, Geralt! With an iron dagger! She almost don't make me! I spent months as a non-corporeal entity just floating all the way up and down the Pontin. I was an old man when I woke up, frail and feeble and pathetic. I couldn't feed myself, bathe myself, use the chamber pot by myself. I had to pull myself back together piece by agonizing piece, and you went and made friends with her!" He is all out shouting by the end, and Geralt just wants to erase that disappointed look on his face to reassure Jaskier that he didn't forget about him or what Yennefer did to him. "We're not friends," he tells Jaskier steadily. "We just kept bumping into each other, and it was either be civil or get turned into a frog." He tries to lighten the mood. "She threatened to put a bow on me." "I'd like to see her try," Jaskier growls. "I wouldn't let her get the chance. She's not allowed to hurt you, ever." The protectiveness in the bard's voice causes Geralt's stomach to squirm with an uncomfortable, unknown feeling. He gets up and hands Jaskier his own mug, ordering him to drink it, while he carefully wipes the warm milk from the bard's slightly reddened hands. That night, Jaskier tosses and turns in his sleep, whimpering occasionally. Geralt wonders if he should reach over, stroke a hand on his arm in an attempt to soothe him, but he does not know how to ease this pain. He wakes the next morning to find the well has overrun and the entire village appears to be covered in half an inch of water. If Geralt had any doubts of the cause, one look at Jaskier's completely mortified face reveals the culprit. They leave town quickly and don't talk about it. A few weeks later, and they're both covered in mud and guts from a drowner hunt gone wrong. It turned out there had been a water hag living with them that had not been mentioned in the contract, and she had managed to get the drop on Geralt, dragging him into the swamp. It's Jaskier who had saved him, parting the waters of the swamp so Geralt doesn't drown, and hacking blindly at the hag with the Witcher's dropped sword. Both of them stink, and it's several hours' walk back to the town. It's a hot day, and Geralt can feel the mud and blood drying unpleasantly on his face and neck. So when he comes to the Dupa, he decides to strip off his armor and dive into the river to clean off. He resurfaces, scrubbing his face and hair as best he can with his hands. Jaskier sits by the bank, smiling at him, still covered in muck. "Not going to join me?" Geralt asks. The bard looks startled but embarrassed. "Careful, Geralt. Don't invite a river to swim with you unless you're absolutely sure you can live with the consequences." "We've swum together before," Geralt reminds him, frowning slightly. "Yes, in public baths. Not in a river. They're different." Geralt's not really sure what comes over him, but he finds himself swimming over to the bank, resting his arms on the grass as he looks up at Jaskier, watching as the river's attention is focused on the way droplets of water run down his arms. "Why is it different then?" he murmurs, enjoying how a pink flush breaks out on the bard's cheeks, spreading up to Tinge's ears. "It wouldn't be as dramatic as swimming together in my own river, but you would still be creating a lifelong bond between us." That causes Geralt to pull back sharply, and he dives back under the water to avoid any further conversation. When he resurfaces a few feet away, Jaskier is looking at him with big, doleful, apologetic eyes. "Swimming together is considered very intimate to us," he shrugs. "It creates a connection that can't be easily broken. Don't worry," he adds. And is that sadness Geralt can detect? "I've been very careful with you and everyone else. No accidental soul bonds for me." Except for the one Geralt has put there. Jaskier is a bit more prepared the next time he runs into the sorceress. Luckily, he spots her before she sees him, and it gives him the moment he needs to prepare himself, to let go of the concentration of power which automatically swells into him at the sight of her, and to hide the agitation he feels from his face. He is a powerful river god, a force of nature. If anyone should be afraid, it's the witch. Besides, Geralt is right next to him. The Witcher is looking supremely uncomfortable, but that may just be the doublet he's been forced into. Some Redanian nobleman has requested Jaskier play at his son's coming-of-age feast, and the bard has bullied Geralt into keeping him company. He's just finished his set and left the minstrels to play some lively dance tunes, joining Geralt by the refreshment table when the witch glides in. "She's obviously trying to be fashionably late," Jaskier mutters to the Witcher, but Geralt makes no reply, standing stiffly at his side. Yennefer glides toward the Redanian lord, who beams at her in a besotted manner and places a lingering kiss on her hand. She murmurs something back to him before her gaze sweeps round the room and lands on the two of them. Jaskier raises an eyebrow at her, refusing to let her see how much she still scares him. At least he's looking his best. Green and gold doublet with matching trousers and a beautifully tailored silk shirt underneath. It evens the playing field, puts them on the same level. "Don't do anything to anyone," Geralt mutters as she strides over to them, and Jaskier feels a twinge of pain in his breast at those words. Does Geralt not trust him? "Geralt!" The witch swoops in and kisses Geralt's cheek, and he lets her! How dare the hussy! "It's been a while. Still filing down those haunts?" "Yennefer." The Witcher nods, and at least he doesn't sound pleased to see her. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited. Darius is an old friend. Of course I'd come to his son's party. And yourself? This is hardly your normal hunting ground. Not still minding baby river gods, are you?" "What strong perfume you wearing?" Jaskier cuts in before Geralt can respond. He may be a baby river god, but he's a god nonetheless. The witch would do well to remember the power he and his family hold. "It's quite overwhelming." "Oh dear, Geralt, are you all right? If it's bad for me, it must be torture for you. Tell me, Yennefer, have you ever considered a simple wash with some hot water and soap?" She bares her teeth at him in the facsimile of a smile. "Pancreas," she grits out, and it's strange to hear his official river name. No one ever uses it, just like no one calls Etta Ribbon. So nice to see you again, under much more pleasant circumstances. You look much better than the last time I saw you. I wish I could say the same, but you definitely looked a bit fresher the last time I saw you. Now, you'll have to excuse me, but I promised several stunning young ladies a dance. Geralt, he turned steely eyes upon his witcher, I promise it'll be 5 dances at most, and then we'll leave. Be careful not to follow any insane women into dark corners. He flounces off, plastering on a charming smile to greet one of the young women he'd earlier secured a dance with. He thinks he may have won that round. However, it turns out there are several more rounds to come, because over the next 4 years, Yennefer seems to turn up everywhere. Jaskier is forced to develop a thick skin rather quickly because her tongue is swift and sharp. He retaliates with his own focused barbs that dig into her vulnerabilities and refuse to be shaken off, but he loses just as many rounds as he wins. Geralt always stands stiffly next to them, never choosing a side, which hurts! Jaskier is the victim in all this! His nightmares are always worse after a confrontation with Yennefer, and more than once he has caused a small flood in his sleep. He can never look Geralt in the eye when this happens, deeply ashamed over his lack of control. He hasn't had trouble with it since he was a small child. The Witcher quickly discovers that these incidents are less likely to occur if he cradles Jaskier through the nightmare, and Jaskier will wake up surrounded by Geralt's arms, face plastered against his heart. Jaskier longs for the day when he can shrug off his fear of the witch, when she will no longer hold so much influence over him, but it seems like a distant dream. Geralt himself has been especially confusing lately, because Geralt seems to flirt with him now. Not always, but when he's relaxed and they've had a good day, he leans a little closer, speaks in soft, suggestive murmurs, and stretches himself out on display more often than usual. Then it's as if Geralt seems to realize what he's doing, and it stops abruptly. It's both maddeningly hopeful and agonizingly depressing. One step forward, 2 leaps back. His siblings don't offer any helpful advice. They shrug at him and suggest just giving it time, allow the Witcher a chance to get used to Jaskier now that he knows what the bard is. Witches live a lot longer than humans. Trava shrugs as Jaskier laments to him over a plate of the bard's favorite Zircanian honey spice cake, made lovingly by Vala, the best cook, and Jaskier's favorite out of the triplets. You've got time for him to yank his head out of his arms. Except Geralt has now known what Jaskier is for the last 7 years, and still hasn't caught on to the increasingly less subtle fact that the bard wants to climb him like a tree, then read him poetry in the sand while feeding him sweet delicacies and combing his fingers through his hair. At this rate, Jaskier might as well just set up camp while Geralt is on a hunt and wait for him naked on the Witcher's bedroll. It's a plan he's seriously considering as he sees off a group of villagers who'd been determined to steal Geralt's possessions while the Witcher rid them of a basilisk. Nicely done, an unknown voice praises from behind him, causing Jaskier to jump. A strange, older-looking man, with 2 impressive Zircanian warriors at his side, holds out his hand to Jaskier. The river shakes it, and a tingling warmth spreads up his arm. Whatever this man is, it's not human. I'm sorry, who are you? Jaskier. Geralt's voice calls sharply from the mouth of the cave, eyeing the 3 newcomers warily. The basilisk's head is clutched in one hand, his sword still drawn in the other. Greetings. The man places a fist over his heart. I am Bosch, 3 Jectors, and these are my companions, Thea and Veer. I've been looking for you, Geralt of Rivia. That sounds vaguely ominous. But as mysterious old men looking for Geralt's services go, this one is at least more than willing to keep the 2 of them supplied in food and wine as he explains what he needs. He wants them, well, Geralt really, but where he goes Jaskier normally follows, to help him kill a dragon. A dragon! Jaskier has never seen a dragon. He doesn't think any of his family have either. Fire and water they don't tend to mix, but excitement is already thrumming through Jaskier's veins. Geralt is reluctant, but Bosch is not easily discouraged, and Jaskier wants the Witcher to agree. Think of the balance, Geralt, he whines. We don't have to kill it. We could just go look at it. Maybe it's a friendly dragon. Maybe it'll be willing to leave on its own. You're delusional, Geralt tells him, but Jaskier thinks he can see a glimmer of amusement in those amber eyes. And why could it not be right? Bosch chimes in.
Dragons are not like wyverns, who are barely more than mindless beasts. All the old tales speak of them being intelligent creatures. Perhaps this one will live peacefully if given the opportunity. How can you miss this chance, Witcher?"
"Yeah, Geralt, how can you miss this chance?" he pleads, shooting his best imploring face at the Witcher. It was very effective against Embla and Alette when he was younger, and the Witcher is not immune. "You're ridiculous," Geralt informs him, but he sighs the weary sigh of the defeated. "Fine, I'm in. But only because I know you," he gestures at Jaskier, "will likely go whether I do or not. Then your mother will kill me when you get burnt to a crisp by an angry dragon." "Yes!" Jaskier exclaims in victory, nudging shoulders with Taya and Vea, with whom he is sitting. They shoot him amused looks, but Borsch graces him with a proper smile. Jaskier excuses himself to go outside to relieve himself all the ale Borsch has brought, then making himself known, which is why he doesn't see Yennefer enter the building.